because I didn't think I was gonna be able to do a sat, honestly. Like going into it, I was like, we'll see if I'll be able to, but I was nervous that I would gray out. I was nervous I just wouldn't be able to handle it, especially from having a harder morning where I did gray out and then I did just feel kind of crummy the whole rest of the day. In Turkey, you are running off a mountain at like 6,000 feet, and showing up for our first flight and looking at the launch site, it's like, oh my God, I'm literally running straight down a mountain. The drive up the mountain alone would have put my mom in a coma. Girls trip. I've been wanting to do an SIV course for a while now, but last year I went to England for the World Paramotor Endurance Championship. And in the flying that I did there, it became just very apparent to me that I wanted to become more comfortable under a glider, especially in more turbulent conditions, and just have more confidence in myself as a pilot. And while I was at the championship, I met a pilot named Richard Dolan, and he is an instructor that does SIV courses in Turkey. So we met and he introduced himself and what he does and really encouraged me to come to Turkey for an SIV course. And so that definitely sparked the interest for me, and it was a personal goal that I had that I wanted to do at least on my own, if not with other people. So I started trying to gauge a little bit of interest in some of my friends to see if they would want to go with me. And I was planning maybe to go in the fall, and then things didn't really work out with my schedule, so decided to go in the springtime. And sometime between fall and winter, Leah decided to take it under her own responsibility to organize the trip and get a group of girls together to go to Turkey. Leah Catullo is a female Ozone team pilot that has just taken it upon herself to be a mentor and a coach to female pilots in the sport. She, in progressing in her own skills, didn't have a lot of knowledge or support, and she wants to provide that to other females. So she's kind of taken a lot of us under her wings and has helped to get our name out there and support us and encourage us and push us. And so her idea behind this trip was to get a group of girls together that could support each other in trying something new. Just because I feel like as a female, it can be a little bit harder to push yourself to try things that are out of your comfort zone. So doing it alongside other females can be a huge encouragement and just makes the whole process a lot better in general. We had an array of skill sets on this SIV course, from a couple of the people who had never paraglided at all, never done any sort of free flight, to Kaylee and I, we had a little more paragliding experience and a few years flying paramotors under our belt. So it was a really cool thing to see that we all had different backgrounds and skill levels, but we still went and did the exact same thing and kind of progressed at the exact same rate, which was really cool. My general goal behind going to the SIV course was just to become more confident and definitely learn more about the safety of a paraglider. But I did have deeper intentions of getting into a little bit more acro, so doing bigger wing overs, doing sats, that sort of thing. I wanted to push my limits in a safe environment with an instructor, just because that makes me personally more comfortable. I know I could go out and try those things on my own, but I have not ever wanted to. I've never pushed myself to that. Doing it with an instructor on radio, telling me exactly what to do, telling me exactly what I'm doing wrong, critiquing me in the moment, just made the whole process a lot more enjoyable for me personally.
As we go through it. One more time, 60 degrees off we go. Get that weight shift right across to the right, comes down, keep it coming around. Left hand goes all the way up. A little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. More right, more right, more right. Drop down a bit. Correction.
Now, take me back to like, you went to the UK. You had first time ever at traveling with a paramotor, where you had to ship it, commercially, traveling on an airline. Now you got to do it again. Was it any easier? Like, talk me through leaving the States and arriving at Turkey.
The process behind packing to go to Turkey was a lot easier than going to England, because when I went to England, I brought my paramotor with me, and that's a whole other ordeal. Going to England, you have to break down the whole paramotor, you have to clean it, make sure it doesn't smell like gas. It's a whole ordeal. Whereas going to Turkey to paraglide, all I needed was my wing, harness, helmet, and I was able to pack those things pretty tightly. I got my harness and my wing into one suitcase and my reserve. So I just had one checked bag with all that stuff, and then a carry-on with everything else I needed, and it was super simple. I flew out of Miami in Florida with four of the other girls. With four of the other girls, three of them who are also from Florida, and then Rachel, she flew from North Carolina to Miami so that she would have us to travel there with. Just because it's a super long flight, we didn't know what the travel process would be like, and it just made her more comfortable being on that flight with the four of us. So we traveled from Miami first to Istanbul, which was a 12-hour flight, and then we had a layover, and then a 1-hour flight from Istanbul to Dalaman, and then from there we had a shuttle from the airport to the hotel. So in total, it was over 24 hours of travel for me personally, and I was running on about 3 hours of sleep. So it was a little bit gruesome, but it was...
Did you go flying right into that?
No.
Okay.
The first day we did not fly. We just did like gear checks and took naps.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, so the program, it makes sense to bring your own wing and your reserve, it's waited for you. What wing did you bring?
I brought an Ozone Kona 3 with me. It was a 24 meter, which I'm a little bit underweighted on, but it's a wing we had here at Aviator that I could use, and it wasn't anything drastically crazy underweight. So I reached out to Rich beforehand asking if this was a good wing to bring for the course, and he said absolutely, it'll be perfect. And I really enjoyed it. I hadn't flown the Kona very much beforehand. I flew it a few times on the paramotor before I went, just so that I was comfortable and familiar with it. But I felt like it was a really, really great wing to use for the SIV because of its safety aspects. It's a low B glider, which is usually what they recommend for an SIV course, is an A or low B glider. And just the way it felt in free flight, the glide capacity on it, and how it reacted to all the maneuvers that we did, I feel like it was perfect for me and my skill set.
Now, on most SIV courses, can you describe, they're usually getting towed up via boat?
Yes.
Is that how it worked for you guys?
No. So most of the SIV courses that happen in the States, you get towed up behind a boat and towed up to an altitude where you can safely practice those maneuvers. But in Turkey, you are running off a mountain at like 6,000 feet. So you run off the mountain, you're already at that altitude. You glide a little bit until you get over the water, or what we call the box, which is the area that we safely practice maneuvers over the water. And by the time you get to the water, I want to say you're like at least at 4,000 feet. So plenty of altitude to be practicing all those maneuvers and still not be low to the ground by the end of it. The school that Rich instructs for is called Free Flight Academy, and it was a super easy process not only to get signed up for the course, but the things that are included in the course. So every day we would wake up, and if the weather was good, we would bring all our gear down to the lobby, and then we would wait for the bus that they had scheduled every single morning to take us up the mountain. So we would load all our gear into the back of the bus, we would get on the bus, we would go and get our tickets. You have to get like a pilot ticket. So we would get that, get back in the bus, and then it was like maybe a 15-20 minute drive up to the top of the mountain. The drive up the mountain alone would have put my mom in a coma. That's how like intense Like you're right on the edge of the cliff doing steep turns, and of course none of us cared, but I was thoroughly impressed by the driver's skills. Like he did not miss a beat. He knew that route like the back of his hand. But yeah, we took a bus up every morning. There was only one day it was completely not flyable, but most days, like if it was flyable, it was going to be flyable early in the morning. So we would wake up at 6:37, catch the bus, go up the mountain, and do our flights.
Did y'all Rochambeau who went first, or who took the lead?
So this was actually interesting because we asked the boys like what the main difference between having a group of girls come for the SIV course compared to like a group of guys, and our launch marshal that would go up the mountain with us, he said the fact that we all would like pick who was going first and like what the launch order was, and we were all so nice about it and generous with each other compared to the guys who get up to the mountain and are like, no, I'm getting first, get out of my way, and try to lay out their glider as fast as they can. So I think the first day it was more so whoever was ready first. So it was like Billy and then I went second. And so I think it was just like more who was ready first and who was most comfortable going so that everyone else could watch you launch off the mountain and see how it was. Because it's pretty intimidating to see the launch site for the first time. But after that, it was like we were all very much like, oh, you went first last time, so let's let this person go. And oh, you're not feeling it yet, or you don't have your gear ready. So we all we just worked together and meshed together very well, that it was never like an annoying process. It was always just, oh, you go next, oh, you go next. And there was zero issue.
All right, now talk us through the processes of stepping stones of SIV.
Okay.
Do you just rip into a sat right away, right?
Yeah. So the first flight we did was an orientation flight, and it was basically just to familiarize yourself with the surroundings and the different calls you were going to be hearing over the radio.
All right, going over the telepherique now. Might get some turbulence over this ridge line. Oh, it's insane! Oh, so insane.
So we launched, we flew over the water, and then he would point out the different locations, which were going to be the different headings you would take depending on what you're doing. So if you wanted to fly in one direction, there was an area that he would tell you to fly to. And then we worked on big ears as well as accelerated big ears and turn reversals, which is just like seeing how you do a full 360 turn and then follow it with another 360 turn. He's just trying to get a gauge on your glider control. And then we did big wing overs. We ended every single flight with wing overs. So the first one he had us do on our own just to see again where you were in your skill set of doing them, and then he would instruct you past that. So every single flight ended with wing overs, and then we also had to get familiarized with the landing zone because you're landing on this strip either of beach or of like this just this little paved road right alongside the beach. So you had to get comfortable with your glide slope on the glider you're on, and then also, just making your way down to that little street and making sure as you're coming into land that you're not going to hit any people, because there's just people walking up and down the street not paying attention, and if there was anyone in your way, you'd have to scream out to them, hey, I'm landing, get out of my way. Thankfully, I never had any close calls, but there were a lot of children running in front of paragliders, which was scary to see. And there were also trees. People were putting their wings in trees left and right, which was very unfortunate to watch. And then I think a few people actually landed on the beach itself, but it was a little bit sloped, the beach, so I was trying to not have to ever land on the beach as well. So it worked out well. It's definitely intimidating the first time you do it, but after that, it's totally fine.
Now, I still haven't even done big ears, so that's pretty embarrassing to say. But then collapses, right? So yes. The whole thing about collapses is it's easy to induce the collapse, but the whole step of getting out of the collapse where it's not turned into a...
So the next few flights we did after the orientation were working on collapses. So asymmetric collapses, accelerated collapses. Did those first few collapses, and the first one was like, okay, pull the collapse and then do absolutely nothing. So you literally had to resist the urge to like grab your brakes or do anything, not even weight shift, just pull the collapse, let it go, and then just sit there. Totally fine, the wing just popped right back out. Next one is like pull it, and then we're gonna do correction, and then the next one is pull and hold and turn through the collapse. And so yeah, we did a lot of different procedures to see how the wing would react through all of those things and how to correct all of those things.
Cool.
Yeah.
How was the nightlife or the food?
So Oludeniz itself is a really cute little beach town. It's very touristy. There's a lot of people coming from a lot of different places. And it was really kind of cool to hear all the stories about who the people are that actually come to this town, because I mean, I never would have heard of it if it wasn't for paragliding. So I'm kind of like, who goes there that isn't going just to paraglide? So it's kind of a vacation spot for a lot of, you know, nearby foreign countries. There's a lot of other activities to do besides paraglide. There's, you know, swimming in the ocean, in the Mediterranean Sea. There's paddleboarding on the Blue Lagoon. There's a ton of restaurants, bars, nightlife, ice cream.
I saw you guys letting loose.
Yes, we did let loose a little bit. On the last few days, we had quite a bit of fun, I will say. I didn't really know much about Turkish cuisine. Of course, there's like Turkish coffee and Turkish delights and the ice cream, the shows that they would do. I mean, you're just getting heckled left and right walking down these streets because everyone wants you to come to them. They're trying to sell you everything that they possibly can. But the food was really good, and specifically there was this one little restaurant right down the road from our hotel, which felt like your grandparents were cooking for you, basically. You came in, you sat down, they had a few things on the menu, but they were always just bringing stuff out for you that you didn't order, just recommending what you should eat, especially because I have dietary restrictions. They remembered me from the first time I went and were like, oh, we have this for you today, we're gonna cook you this. So it was very homey and very authentic, and it was just a really great environment, and we went back several times.
Yeah, food's very important.
Yes, food is very important.
How'd y'all get around? Walk, pedicab, or was everything kind of locally?
We mostly walked everywhere. Everything was in walking distance. It's just like you feel like you're in this little bubble because everything you need is right there. There was one day we took a bus to a local town, Fediye, and explored there. But other than that, we stayed in Oludeniz the whole time and just walked everywhere, other than going up the mountain, which we either took the cable car or the bus up.
Who biffed it on the launch? Anybody?
There was one biff. It was Gada, and she brought the glider up and it just picked her straight up. She was still reversed. She picked up and then she spun around, and she wasn't quite ready to be spun around, and so she brought the glider down, but in the process kind of rolled down the hill a little bit. It was totally fine. It was a learning process for everyone, so honestly it was kind of badass. I don't know if I should curse, but I was like, that's kind of badass. He just took off in reverse. And if she had kept it going, it would have been a really, really funny launch. But again, not a lot of people there had actually done free flight before, and the launch is different for free flight off a mountain. So everyone was in that learning curve of reversing every single time you go launch, and literally like the mental barrier of I am running off a cliff right now, so I have to be okay with that, be okay with quickly getting my glider up, turning, and just running off a mountain. It's definitely a nerve-wracking thing if you haven't done it very often. So, and I will say the first time there were several different launches at several different altitudes depending on the wind direction, and showing up for our first flight and looking at the launch site, it's like, oh my God, I'm literally running straight down a mountain. But when you're actually doing it, it doesn't feel nearly as bad as it actually looks.
I saw some glimpses of the takeoff. It's gnarly.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
Like you said, it's a road to nowhere.
Yeah.
You better have the glider up.
Yeah. To be honest, launching is like my favorite part always. So that was like the least nerve-wracking part for me, but I know for a lot of girls it was the most nerve-wracking part. So yeah, we all had our different
What
skills.
wind direction do you do collapses in versus sats? Does it matter? You talked about wind direction.
The wind direction only really mattered for the launch. So depending on where it was coming up the mountain, we had to go to different spots on the mountain. But once you were launched and you got away from the mountain, it typically didn't matter too much if it was, coming onshore. Obviously we want it onshore for landing, and it makes it smoother in general. But if it was stronger in one direction or the other, our instructor Rich would kind of adjust what we were doing in what heading according to the wind. But you know, once you're over the water, it was smooth and a non-issue. So
Tell me a story of one of your best moments in Turkey.
okay, my best moment was definitely when I was able to do a sat, because it had been a little bit of a hard morning for me because we went up and did spirals first thing in the morning, and I don't know if it was just my lack of preparation for the G's. I mean, I had eaten breakfast and I had chugged a ton of water because I know that my body struggles with G's. And so we went up and did spirals, and after 2 spirals, I was graying out during them and I just couldn't handle anymore. I thought I was either gonna vomit or just fully pass out. So if you were doing a maneuver and you weren't comfortable anymore and you wanted to stop, our signal for that was to pull big ears. So I did 2 spirals and then I pulled my big ears. And he was like, okay, that's totally fine. We'll move into wingovers. And even the wingovers, I was like, I might vomit if I do wingovers, but I did them anyway and they weren't the best. And, you know, I was pretty disappointed in that when I landed. I had to sit and drink water and get a little snack because, again, I felt like I was going to throw up for a good hour. And we had a little bit of a rest between that flight and the next one we did. And in the debrief, our instructor Rich said that he was concerned I wouldn't be able to do a sat because I couldn't handle the G's of a spiral. So our next flight we were going to work on auto rotation, which the G's in an auto rotation are a little more similar to a sat. So he was saying if you can handle that, we might be able to move forward into the sat. But I also told him I was comfortable trying the spirals again and doing a few more techniques in terms of squeezing my body to try to maintain my vision while doing the spirals. So we went up, we did the next flight. I handled the auto rotations completely fine. And then he decided not to make me do any more spirals. We just did the auto rotations and then the wingovers. I felt a lot better about my wingovers because I was, again, in a better physical state when I was doing them. So then we landed, and then final flight, I think it was either that same day or the next morning, we finally did our sats. And I was the first one to go. So I launched and knew there was nobody on the ground watching me. My first 2, I couldn't quite get. I think I entered them a little too quickly and I couldn't get the brake pressure right. So first 2 didn't work, and then my third one, I finally got into the sat and held it for a little bit, came out of it pretty nicely, and didn't gray out and felt really good about it. And I felt a little wonky, like I was not, you know, I didn't exactly feel good. So he asked me to do wingovers after them, and I went to do 1 big ear, as in give me a minute, I need to like recover from this nauseous feeling. But he said, okay, just enjoy the rest of your flight. And as soon as he said that, I just started bursting out in giggles, and I actually started crying a little bit because I didn't think I was going to be able to do a sat.
Well, actually, maybe this one is you. If you're just breaking the headline, can you do a 45 right and then left?
Oh, that was crazy.
Ah, yeah, there you are, back on heading.
Honestly, like going into it, I was like, we'll see if I'll be able to, but I was nervous that I would gray out. I was nervous I just wouldn't be able to handle it, especially from having a harder morning where I did gray out and then I did just feel kind of crummy the whole rest of the day. So I did the sat, and I had this release of adrenaline as soon as he said, okay, we're done, just enjoy the rest of the flight. And I was just like, man, I was just so pumped and so proud of myself for doing it. And it sounds like a silly little thing, but it was just something I've thought about for a really long time. I mean, I was going up on a tandem with James Sutherland 2 years ago, trying to work on my G tolerance, so he would do huge wingovers and barrel rolls on the trike with me to see what I could tolerate, and I would just gray out through everything. And so it's been a long process of seeing what I'm capable of tolerating and working on being able to tolerate more. And I was just like giggling and letting out little tears up there, and then landed, and it was just a really good, beautiful flight.
That's pretty awesome. Congrats. Yeah. Back in Lake Wales, we flew this morning. How often do you think, now that you're back, you'll actually continue just keeping that razor edge sharp?
Yeah, I definitely want to keep practicing stuff as soon as I can, just to keep that momentum going and to not lose any of that, of what I just worked on. So I'm gonna keep it easy. I'm gonna do most of what I did on the Kona, or at least a low B wing. And I'm gonna work, he strongly suggested we work on spirals and wingovers for a while before we move into a sat on a motor, just because it's a lot faster with the added weight of a motor, and so everything's a little more dynamic and just different in general on a paramotor compared to a free flight harness. But for sure, he recommended we be working on those spirals, wingovers, and then eventually I would like to move into doing sats as well. I'll probably have Leah come and like kind of oversee that a little bit, and then obviously we want to be doing it at a super high altitude, which is a lot easier with a paramotor to launch, climb up a few thousand feet, practice, climb back up, practice, climb back up. So you can actually progress a lot faster on a paramotor than having to, you know, go up a 6,000 foot mountain.
Would you say it was completely different or slightly different doing these wingovers without the weight of the motor?
It was way more different than I thought it would be. Just the feeling of building energy in the wing without a paramotor. It was like slower, you had to put more effort into it. Obviously you don't have the power of a motor to push you through those wingovers, so you're learning exactly how to do a wingover without any assistance whatsoever. And there's just a lot less weight under the glider as well, so you're really having to throw your weight shift into it, which again is easier on a paragliding harness than a paramotor. So it was really cool to see how bad I was at them at first, because it's so much different than a paramotor, and then it was really cool to learn the exact timing of when you should be pulling everything and how much the timing affects how the wingovers actually come out. So it was really fun, and ending every single flight doing them just felt like a really cool like progression.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I think that's it, unless you want to mention something that, you know, was cool about Turkey or the SIV course in general.
I think just in general, the overall environment of being in a highly renowned paragliding spot was really cool, because it's just like you get stuck in one area with all these paramotor people doing the same things, and then it's like you step into this other world where it's all these paragliding pilots talking about Acro and doing all this crazy stuff that you never see or are around. And so it was like a whole new window was opened to all this other stuff that people are doing, and met people from all over the world, from Singapore, Germany, France, just Sweden, and just hearing what all these different people are coming here to do and to work on, and to see the progression of in just a few days that people were able to achieve was really cool. And I would definitely love to go back and potentially down the road step into the world of Acro a little bit more. I really loved working under an instructor, which is actually what I thought I would be most nervous about, is because I'm an instructor myself. I was nervous I would struggle with listening to someone else tell me what to do, but it actually was exactly what I needed, and the second he told me to do something, I was doing it like with no hesitation. And so I think I would like to progress and continue to do that. And for sure we're going to continue to have these groups going to Turkey, I think, specifically girl groups, because we want to continue to encourage and support each other and keep our skill set going. But it'll probably definitely open up to pretty much everyone being invited to come as well, because it's just such a unique, cool experience. It definitely seems like a lot of people are very, very interested in going after seeing us all go.
A few years ago, we went to Kupkar.
Yes.
It was a lot of fun.
Yes.
We got to paraglide in front of Zermatt.
Yes.
In front of the Matterhorn. Yes.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
Would you do that by yourself now?
I would absolutely. It definitely sparked my joy for free flight as well. Like, I already have paraglided a few times, but I haven't really sought it out as much as paramotoring. And I feel like flying in Turkey has just made me fall absolutely in love with it. And now when I do go to France for our competition, I'm like, okay, I kind of want to bring a paragliding harness with me and then stay for a little bit longer and go to all these sites that we visited when we went to Kupakar, but we didn't actually get to fly at, so that now I can go and free fly them by myself. And it's just a paramotor and paragliding both have very different feelings. Like, they're both flying under a paraglider, but they are each uniquely special in their own way, and I would like to start exploring free flight a lot more. I mean, paragliding is a whole other beast. You have to know weather vastly more. We kind of have our limits and we stick to them, and that's great. But if there's avenues you can go down in paragliding where you do want a thermal, and you know, you have to think about rotor coming off mountains and all those different things. But I feel like I at least for the near future, wouldn't try to thermal. I would just be very strict with my weather conditions as well, similar to paramotoring, and just want to, you know, launch from beautiful sites and make my way to the landing zone, and that's it, and be happy with that.
Yeah, sled rides.
Sled rides, yes. Yeah.
Lastly, let's wrap it up. When you have started, you had this crazy journey. You know, physically, you shouldn't even be able to do things. Now leveling up to pushing the boundaries in the sport. If people are back at home, our channel is usually students and people wanting to train.
Yes.
What do you suggest to someone that's maybe recently got out of training versus people looking to get into the sport? What do you think SIV on a scale, you know, where should they be looking? What should they be comfortable doing before they take this next step?
I would definitely suggest everyone do an SIV course. I think it, you know, it's not necessarily necessary for like a beginner pilot to go and do. But I think down the road, a year or two into flying, it's a great experience. Make sure you're going to a highly credited instructor that's not going to be pushing you to do things you shouldn't be pushing. I've seen that a lot, where people get into situations that they are not ready for because it's just an instructor that's just what he does for everyone. You know, find someone that's going to attune the schedule to you and what you're capable of. It was very much a lot of gauging our skills through every single flight to see what we would all be ready to do for the next one. It just so happened that we all progressed very well together, and we were all able to continue doing the same things through the whole course. But it's totally normal if like you're not ready to do things that someone else isn't, or someone else is. So yes, I recommend SIV course to everyone. It vastly improved just my confidence, you know, not in a dangerous way, but in a safe environment. If you're looking especially to get into wingovers or SATs or barrel rolls or whatever, I highly, highly recommend going and actually learning from an instructor how to do those things, because you're going to learn how to do them correctly and you're going to avoid potential problems down the road. And it's just really cool to see what you are able to do to a glider in terms of collapsing it, and the fact that it will continue to fly with that collapse. It's just a really cool thing to see and experience.
And we'll just wrap it up. Aviator Day's Red Barn celebration is limited to 30 people, food and parking, and that is going to go on sale soon, $15 per person. Again, they're limited to 30 people. Link listed below to sign up. First dates September 27th, second date October 18th. And feel free to visit us between then and to the end of the year to say farewell to the barn. As we had mentioned in the previous episode, it is going away. We're here Monday through Friday, and love having visitors from our community. So, Gillian, I appreciate you taking some time to celebrate your new skill with us.
Yeah.
And looking forward to trying to chase you with a drone or a camera.
I'm definitely going to be trying to do stuff without anyone watching for a while, and
yeah.
then we can get video of it. But I'm sad a lot of people are leaving for the summer, but then I'm also like, well, I get all this space and opportunity to go up and try things and not feel the pressure of anyone watching me while I do them.
Yeah, fair enough. I need to learn triking soon, so you might see me out on the field blowing some stuff. We got the new pneumatic trike, but they're flying off the shelf. Good to see that. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's crazy.
One getting boxed up today, lime green. That's cool. All right. Well, if you like this episode, make sure you hit the like button, comment down below what's your wildest acro, and we'll see you on the next episode.